Ruben Swartz, your host and chief nerd. Welcome to Sales for Nerds, the podcast for people who love using their expertise to serve clients but maybe aren't quite so enthusiastic about the sales and marketing aspects of the business. I struggled with this for years, ironically, as a sales and marketing consultant to the Fortune 500. Over time, I realized that there was a more effective, more authentic way to get clients by helping instead of selling, teaching instead of marketing, and connecting instead of networking. My mission is to help you learn the easy way instead of the way I learned it, by sharing my stories, by bringing on awesome guests to share their stories. And of course, as a software guy, I had to go and create the CRM I wished I'd had when I was struggling with more traditional systems. It does more of what us solo consultants need, help us nail our positioning, help us get more leads and conversations off our website, get more referrals, have more conversations, automates proposals all the way through to e-signature and more, and less of the bloat that comes with traditional CRMs. If you want to check it out, you can start a free trial at mimiran.com. That's MIMIRAN.com. And you can even just sign up for the free version, which helps you nail your positioning. And you can also find proposal templates, lead magnet ideas, and more. Once again, that's MIMIRAN.com. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Shaily Hakimian. She is the Chief Lead Sherpa for socialmediasherpa.com. And she's here to talk to us about how to actually connect with people online in a way that makes it obvious that you can help them. So Shaily, welcome to Sales for Nerds. What do you have in your glass?
What do I have in my glass? So I have some of this Chicago ginger beer thing that is just delicious. It is a nice non-alcoholic thing. And I have some leftover Ryu. What is this? I don't even know. Mezcal? Master Mezcalero. So I don't know. I mixed them together and so far so good. So cheers.
All right. We're having some live bartending happening on the show here. I've got my glass of Willful Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. And if you were just listening to the previous episode, you might have noticed that I was drinking the same thing. And that is not because I only drink this. It's because it's the next day, and thanks to the magic of vacuum sealing corks, I am continuing to drink what I started yesterday. So, Shaily,
nice.
Welcome, and tell me how you got into this. I'm guessing that you didn't dream of becoming a social media Sherpa when you were a young child.
I wanted to be a marketer since age 2. No, absolutely not. It is definitely not something that is random by any means for me. My world was like this. I was a bullied elementary school kid. I was behind in reading. People thought I was like stupid. It was just very hard to navigate the world socially. And I didn't actually learn how to make friends till MySpace. I don't know if you were on MySpace back in the day.
No, I somehow missed the whole MySpace period. Sorry, hold on. Barley, what are you doing? There's nobody out there. There's someone who's walking along the sidewalk and my dog is like wanting to play with them.
That's what they do. So what should I do? Should I hold off?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, don't. Barley, do what you got to do.
Come on. Come here.
Oh, should I have my water bottle? Let's see.
Come here. You big goofball. Come here. Oh, it's a delivery. Barley, it's quite all right.
Are they still there?
Barley, come here.
Oh my gosh, I'm already feeling a little like...
It's guaranteed that FedEx will come while I'm trying to record an interview. Sorry about that. So.
Yes. So, still happening? Uh-oh.
You're out. You're done.
Oh, no. It's not that bad now. It's quieter.
She is so good 99% of the time. And it's only in moments like this where like something happened anyway. So
she wants attention. That's it.
She wants to play with the FedEx guy.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So back in the day, we said MySpace, right? I was on there, and that's actually where I learned to make friends on the internet. It's where I learned to make connections, and it's where I first managed an online community as a 15-year-old girl. I have a weird nerdy hobby. I play online versions of reality competition shows like Big Brother and Survivor. I don't know if you're a fan of either, but maybe there are some folks who love those shows because we could talk about it for days. And I was a leader and all this good stuff happening and made connections. I made friends. I went from being a loser to being like a super social butterfly on the internet. I didn't think much of this till I graduated college from Indiana University with my education degree. And I was applying for like my first paid social media job. And they asked, Shaily, have you ever managed online communities before? And maybe you're making the connection that I did, that what I was doing on MySpace was like super early social media skills. And I realized that everything that I had done on MySpace about learning how to make connections and make friends was really what I loved doing when it came to social media and engaging people who followed the accounts that I ran. So fast forward, I am at a BNI meeting. Have you been to some BNIs in the past?
I have been to a couple BNI meetings.
Yeah. It's an interesting method for business development, right? You can go meet other business owners and all that stuff. And I had been to this group a whole bunch. I've been invited as a guest. And one of the ladies was like, Shaily, I am like totally struggling how to figure out Instagram. I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, Shaily, can I just like, I don't want to hire you to be my social media manager. And honestly, they weren't prepared to spend the thousands of dollars that it costs to get a social media manager. But she's like, can I just like pay you to sit down with me and show me how to do Instagram? And I was like, wait a second, this is interesting. Like, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't going to say no to that. I'm like, I'm a certified teacher. I love motivating and encouraging people. Like, I learned how to make friends on the internet. These people are already very well connected. This is like my perfect business. So this is, I think, about my 3-year anniversary now from when I started primarily really teaching social media. So I've gone from working with like dozens of different businesses to coaching some 200 consultants on how to get clients on LinkedIn through the work of one of my clients, and doing classes at University of Chicago and beyond. So really it came out of the struggle to make friends and using the tools of the internet to make those connections. And so now I help business owners do the exact same thing to make sure that the people that love and adore their business get reminded about how awesome they are. And so they can stay top of mind and get even more business and more goodness come their way.
Now let's go back to MySpace for a second, partly because I'm just intrigued because I've never been on MySpace. But it was so good. What let you make friends there that you could do or that wasn't there that was hindering you in the quote unquote real world?
You know what it is? It's not feeling as alone. Is that I found people on the internet that were more like me than what I could find in my proximity. At that point in my life, like Big Brother was like the show that I spent all my time thinking about. If you know anything about Big Brother, they have these 24/7 live feeds on the actual players. So you can literally spend every waking hour watching this house and like these people talk to each other. It was so great. I was addicted. And none of my friends in real life did it except for like my like guidance counselor. And as a 15-year-old, like he was cool, but like he wasn't always the person I wanted to talk to about it. And my mom, that was it. So being able to find people that love the thing that I consumed all day long, that got me and understood me, that was a game changer for me. I found my tribe, and I found that, I don't know if I want to use the word tribe, but I found my people. My crew. And that was nice.
Got it. So just because you had exposure to all the rabid Big Brother fans versus just having to settle for your guidance counselor.
And he's great. Like he honestly, just him watching the show, like blew my mind. Like that was really cool. Honestly, I'll tell you this like little sidebar of how crazy the show is. When I got to college, my first week I get in there, I'm learning to make friends. And there was this one woman that I was like, oh, she's kind of interesting, whatever. And she tells me, oh, I have to go for the evening my show is on. I'm like, well, what show do you watch? She says, Big Brother. I fall to my knees and I literally break down in tears. So I'm like, there's somebody my age that likes the same thing that I do. And it's like in person, like it wasn't somebody on the internet. And to me, that like blew my mind. So I really geek out over this stuff. There's a camaraderie with that community that is just beautiful. I don't know if I've ever shared that with folks on the air, but that's a true story. This is stuff I really care about. So
now, did you become friends with her in real life? The other Big Brother fan?
Yeah, so her and I are still like very good friends. She actually just had a baby. We had a lot of good fun at college, and yeah, she's still a good friend of mine.
That's awesome.
Big Brother definitely made our relationship significantly stronger.
This sounds very Orwellian, right? For someone whose main reference to Big Brother is Orwell and not the TV show.
Oh, it's related. It's related.
Right.
There's cameras, 90 cameras watching you 24/7. Like there's scandals galore. So
okay.
So yeah, that eventually led me to doing more marketing goodness. So finding people that I can connect with. And for a lot of the people I serve, they're influencers in their own right. They have a network of people that love and trust them. And they know that that's a huge deal for their business. So it's staying in touch, making those relationships even stronger so that they can get more of what they want.
Now, how do people identify those folks they need to stay in touch with, and how should they stay in touch with them?
So here's the magic, right? Like referral network. Every time I used to tell the story all the time that like when I try to sell social media management services, I'd say, hey, do you need social media? And they're like, no, I don't. I get my business by referral. And I was like, oh, okay, guess they don't need me. And I would like walk away and being confused. And I'm like, okay, they're not my client. And I was like, wait a second, it's the exact same thing. The reality is that for a lot of these businesses, they have a list of people that generally refer them, whether it's like the real estate agent, the mortgage broker being buddies, they know who's already bought from them. Even past clients, they have those relationships. Maybe they're members of their BNI chapter, right? They're all of these people. They have a list. Everybody has like a bucket, right?
Right.
When you start a business, you're like, oh, I can probably call these 50 people. We have that. It exists, but there's no way that people are communicating to them where they can know exactly what the heck's going on. That's where people miss their opportunity. Right? Can I give you an example of this?
Please.
So I had a client last summer, Indian matchmaker, and in another life, I actually wanted to be a matchmaker, but that's a whole other story. I was trying to do some good in the Jewish community. I was like, I can be a matchmaker. Did not work out, but it's okay. I got to live vicariously through this client. And what I do when I do like a video review where I like stalk people on the internet to see where their missing opportunities are. And in her situation, she was doing all sorts of crazy stuff on Instagram. And I'm like, great, that's good. And she had a website, but the website wasn't totally clear in what she solved. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, she like had a lead capture form, like an email capture form that had tons of names of people that she probably drove to the website or people who found her that wanted to work with her, yet she never sent them a single email. So these people who want to work with her have never talked to her before, never even heard anything else from her besides that one sign up for their list. There was no list. And I'm like, what a missed opportunity. These people are actually wanting to buy from you and you've never spoken to them before. Like, bad idea. And I think she's like, oh yeah, right. Now she's sending emails out regularly. I'm like, bless. But that was a huge missed opportunity. Or another lady who's got a therapy company, right? She had SEO people and she loves SEO, but unless you wanted to book a call right away or book a service with them, there was no other way for them to engage them. So we put some things in place so that she can capture those names and build a relationship with knowledge and insight that these people never had before.
Got it. Okay. So basically it's people who are trying to do business with you or who have done business with you in the past, actually talk to them.
It is actually talk to them, but it's not necessarily as just say hello to them. It's if you're a lot of folks, they have these people in a bucket. My situation, I've got lots of great context on LinkedIn. When I post on LinkedIn on a regular, consistent basis, my network sees it. My network knows exactly what I'm up to. Did I have to get on a phone call with any of those people? Did I have to reach out one by one? Absolutely not. But when they are ready, they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. And they say, hey, Shaily, I need you. Let's do something.
So basically let your online presence tell people exactly what the heck you do.
Yeah.
And who you do it for.
Exactly. And it's you can do that at scale in a way that you can't do with phone calls.
So let's talk about how should people communicate that. And I think a lot of it is stuff that I've been harping on again and again and again, which is if you sit down and have a glass or two of wine with me and tell me about what you do, where you as the proverbial person listening to this show, I'm going to be so excited. Even if I'm not in your market, I'm going to start thinking of people to refer you to because you're awesome at what you do. But if I go to your website, I go to your LinkedIn, I go to your whatever, it's boring as all get out.
So awful. Yes. Oh, I'm just echoing what you're saying because you keep going on this. I love it.
No, that's all. Like to me, that's my defining impression. And I did the exact same thing when I started my consulting business. I looked at big consulting companies. I was like, I need to copy how they do their website, how they do their stuff. And it's boring as and
no personality,
nothing. And anyone who needs a big company knows they see through this, but anyone who is actually a good fit for me, who's trying to avoid the big company is like, well, wait a second. You sound just as boring as the other people. Is this what you're talking about? There's
a big piece of it, right? People are usually very boring online. It's like people might know, like if, let's say Billy's our client here, right? They might know Billy is amazing, but if they say, if Billy says, Sarah, you should go call Billy, and they look up Billy and there's not a lot of information there, that makes the sale a lot harder to close. Because that person, and any person, even you and I, or anybody you've been on a podcast with, you've probably stalked them on the internet before actually considering them on your show. I know you vet your people very well. You look them up, and if there's nothing interesting, that's a missed relationship. What had to happen in the past on a phone call can now happen with a website. So for example, one of the easiest things I tell clients, and I do this with every single client on our 2-hour deep dive, is tell your story. Why did you get into it? They don't know that I'm doing that, but I pull it out. And then at the end, they're like, oh, that's nice. Pull out that story, because the reason you care about this CRM is probably really meaningful and it's something that people can connect with. But people don't ever share that origin story, right? They don't know that like MySpace and I was like loser kid that used the skills to do marketing. Like they have no idea, but people need to tell that.
Absolutely. It's funny because there's actually a field in my CRM that says, here's where you tell your origin story, because
brilliant.
That's what people need to do instead of I have these 18 credentials that are boring you to tears right now. Yeah.
Nobody cares.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like, it doesn't actually connect with anybody.
They want to know that you can solve their problem. And do you make it obvious with your content that you can solve their problem? Most of the time, the only time that happens is on a phone call. You can make it happen with your website. You can make it happen with a podcast. You can make it happen with content. And it can take a lot of different forms, but you have to make it obvious what you solve and the information that person might need to know. And it's all in their heads too. It's nothing new. It's all in their heads. They already know it works. They just don't know that they need to get it on paper.
Well, it's like I have people who tell me from time to time, oh, okay, that's great. I was just on your website. Why doesn't your website say that?
That's the epitome, right?
And you need those people who will tell you that so that you can go to your website and make it say that. And then you're like, okay, problem solved.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I had a client ask me this question. I thought it was a tough one at first. She's like, well, if I give them all the information and will they not call us? And I'm like, if you give them all the information as they're researching insurance, they're going to trust you over anybody else because you educated them and you've built trust with them. Like you are the person that's giving them the insight. Why would they go anywhere else? They won't. They'll come to you.
I use the analogy of imagine I'm trying to build a deck, right? So I go to YouTube or whatever, and I search up how to build a deck. If I can actually go build a deck, I'm not a good client, right? And we could probably have a philosophical discussion about whether that's true or not. But generally speaking, like, why would you be worried about turning away the person who really wants to do it himself anyway and is going to argue with you every step of the way?
Well, yeah, you don't want those people either, but
versus the person who's like, oh, this is really intriguing. It takes a lot of work and skill and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I don't want to deal with this crap, but this person clearly knows what they're talking about.
Exactly. Right. It's like, you don't want like being empowered that you know how it works is a huge part of the issue. Right. And this is the other thing that I see this as a problem all the time is that like a business will be like, oh, I know I need to get on social media. Okay, great. Let's just hire the social media person. They'll figure it all out. But a lot of times that person isn't empowered. They didn't watch the deck building video to understand what points you need to manage. Like, I don't know, do you need the kind of wood or you need a kind of height? Like they don't know any of that stuff. But if you are empowered to understand how these systems work, that's when your team or your person is going to get way more out of it. And that's the biggest thing that I love solving is that it becomes almost like how to speak to your social media manager when you're the business owner, because that is oftentimes like a big mess. That is where a lot of missed opportunities happen. Right. So I like to make it really obvious. So like what I did, I had somebody really love this article. I put an article on my website that's called Pricing. And it's basically how you should think about pricing and what the results are for different types of social media services. So if I'm not the right person, I want them to feel empowered about what their options are. They might know a social media freelancer who might be really awesome, but that social media freelancer is not necessarily a strategist. So unless that business owner knows exactly what task they want replicated, it's not going to get them what they want. And with an agency, right, if you're not their top client, you might not get the best people working on your stuff, but they will know everything going on in the marketing world. So there's a lot of these trade-offs, right? Same with getting a virtual assistant. They know nothing about social media, but they can do a task. They're not going to help you with best practices, but these are all options people have to consider depending on how much insight and knowledge they have. And people don't know that. So people have found that really interesting.
Okay. And I think there's something about, oh, I need to be on social media, or I need to be doing SEO. I need to do AdWords, whatever it is.
Shiny objects.
It's a checkbox, right? Like, oh, this is what people are doing. I will hire someone to check this box. And then I will complain 6 months, 12 months, however many months later that I poured a bunch of money down the drain. I'm really aggravated at my person who may or may not be a scam artist, because there's a lot of weird.
There's some of those.
They are out there, but it's like you can't just check a box and not be telling a story and expect to get great results, right?
Yeah, that's a big thing too, right? You can't. But what ends up happening is that if you don't give the information that the freelancer needs to succeed, they're not going to succeed as well. Like the freelancer doesn't know your business inside and out, but you, the business owner, know all of the nitty-gritty details, right? But a lot of times that communication barrier is different because the freelancer knows how social media works and the business owner is like, go get me leads. And I'm like, That's not how these two things work. But of course, you're going to have bad results if you don't give the time and the energy to like that partnership. And then I'm going to just go on a little soapbox here, but so often there's a lot of young women who are freelancers in social media who are undercharging and who don't know how to stand up for themselves. And they understand social media really well, but they can't advocate for themselves enough for the company to actually do what's right. I had a colleague of mine from an agency. She was working for a law firm, and she understood that they were spending like $4,000 on some BS marketing company that probably only targeted law firms. It probably had a very good sales pitch, and they're paying them like 4 or 5, 6,000. I'm sure they were not paying her that much. And yet she knew that it was doing absolutely nothing for them. But does she have the power with a law firm to be like, hey, don't do that? No, because she's probably the only creative in that whole firm. She's probably very different than all the stuffy lawyers there. So she never got that word out. And they probably, I mean, recently I think they like changed something up and their marketing's been better, but like, of course it's not going to do as well if there isn't that trust there. And it broke my heart a little bit because she wasn't the problem, but it's ultimately going to fall on her that they're not getting what they need out of it because they're not giving her what she needs to succeed.
So let's talk about what people need to succeed online, whether you've got a social media person or not.
Yeah. It could be you.
It could be you, right? It could be your cousin. It could be someone on your team.
Sure.
It could be our agents. It could be any of these options. But I feel like step one, whether you get help from these people or not, you've got to sort out your story, right?
Yeah, you have to have some sort of plan or know where your people are. That's usually my step one is where are your people? And then getting all the information from your brain onto paper. What form that takes after that, it can take a lot of forms. That's key number one. Get the information out of your brain onto paper.
So
and
let's
then
talk
know where
about
your people are.
What information to get out, because one of your taglines on LinkedIn is learn to be unforgettable. So let's take the information out of people's brains so that they can be unforgettable.
Absolutely. So some of them I have a offering on my website where it's like, answer these 10 questions and you have content for the whole year. And some of those nuggets are like we just shared, are your story, put that out there. The other one, and you'll see this on my website, like what is your FAQ? That's the simplest thing. Like what questions do you get all the time? Now you don't have to say them on a sales call because their clients have already seen them. I had a guy who I thought looked at my website before we got on the phone, found out he didn't. While on the call, I was like, hey, go look at my FAQ page. He took the 3 minutes to go read them. And he was like, yes, I need you. And that was more than enough for him to be like, yes, okay, now I understand. I need this. Okay, buying service. And that was great. And it makes it so much easier, but people don't have that on there. Like with the therapy companies, right? Like I looked at a bunch of other competitors and like some of them didn't explain pricing very well. And that's like a big issue for so many people trying to get into that business. Why not explain it, right? Those are the common questions of like, how does this work? What is the process of working with someone? These are the easiest things. They should be online.
And when you
accessible, yeah.
I will say when people answer them, sometimes they answer them with a whole bunch of jargon. How do you work with us? We strive to understand your needs and formulate a custom plan to constantly exceed your expectations and blah, blah, blah. Right? It's like you didn't actually answer the questions. You just word vomited it all over me. And now I have a less favorable impression than I did when I started.
Yeah. So those are companies, if they already have something, like they're probably far beyond and they need a whole lot of other help. But if you're doing this for the first time, you can do it on your own, or you can get a lovely copywriter that will facilitate this for you. I have a great, talking about referrals, I have a great human. She literally sat with me, asked me questions, and then essentially transcribed the best parts and rewrote everything in a way that was so much better than what I could have done. And she helped me take me through that process. I didn't have to figure it out. And now I can use that content in a lot of different ways. And that's awesome. So there are people to help you with it.
Okay. So let's be specific. So we've got FAQs. That's a great thing, right? Because we're talking to somebody, they ask us a question, we can make a note of it and we can put it on our website, especially if we get it again and again. What else should we be making sure that we're using our online presence to help us communicate with?
What are some hot tips? Even for you, like what are some hot tips with CRMs, right? Like that's what I would hope to see. Like what are some things you need to think about when choosing one? Does it have this? Does it have that? Do you need X? Do you need Y? Do you need Z? Like, how does one navigate even choosing a CRM? I'm using you as an example, right? Those are some really, really easy things, which is in my situation, right? Like, how do you choose which service provider? I gave you options, right? That was a big issue that came up. So it depends on who you're serving. So that's a huge one. That's a big one. Like the other one that came up recently is I had a photographer guy and everything he was putting out was, oh, buy a session with me, buy this, buy that. And one of his emails could have been like 20 emails. It was literally stories about why people took photos that day. And it was like, oh, this is a mom and a daughter on graduation day, or like, oh, we had a new baby after, 7 rounds of IVF, or like, and you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, I could so relate, or I can only imagine those people. It's like, it's not about the photos, it's about the experience. And I'm like, why aren't you putting more content out like this? You have the stories. Give me that. Give me stories about the experiences people have had with you, because then they can see themselves in the shoes of someone who they can relate to using your service. This is all content that can be put out on a lot of different mediums.
Got it. Right. So you've got it on your blog, you've got it on your FAQ page, you push it to Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever is relevant for your particular niche.
100%. Now, I wouldn't tell you to do all of them at the same time unless you're like some big famous person. Maybe like a couple of these places. Email marketing though is like incredible, but like that, all that can feed you for a lifetime. So as you expand, this stuff can be reused and repurposed.
So sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. The other thing that I see happening all the time is that there's a lot of pressure, like you said, get on SEO, do this, do that, to do a lot. And sometimes you'll hear best practices like, oh, you should post 3 times on LinkedIn a week, or you should post 3 times on Instagram a week, or like you should post 3 TikToks a day. And like technically from like a marketing standpoint, that isn't wrong. But what so many marketers out there trying to sell to like small and growing businesses is like, they think like a marketer at a big corporation, and they think, oh, that makes me qualified. I'm like, you don't know what it's like to be the everything in your business, the accountant, the marketer, the service provider, the this, but you don't have to be like a marketer, like in that sense. So in my mind, it's like this. It's like, think of your favorite TV show. Like some people, I had a lady on I was doing a training on Monday, and she's like, oh, like I send a quarterly email out. And I'm like, well, what if your favorite TV show is like, we're only going to make an episode every 3 months? Like, wouldn't that annoy the junk out of you? Right. And an email marketer was like, yeah, you probably wouldn't even notice that email because you're not expecting it. It's like, oh, it's been 3 months. Like I'm waiting for Ruben's email on his CRM. Like, no, people don't do that. So she was like, every other week is a good amount, but it's about that, but it's also about like consistency. Right. So even with me, like my big secret is I have been posting on LinkedIn consistently, pretty much comparable intervals for 2.5 years. And I've done it about once a month, which is probably not enough, and I probably could get way more if I did it more often, but that's how much I can maintain sustainably. Don't feel like you have to do the whole like crash diet thing like we do every year in January. You can find something and stick with it, and it makes a huge difference. It makes a massive difference.
I think that's a great point. It's something that I've learned also the hard way is when you do it at a sustainable pace, you enjoy it. And you put more into it, and that comes through to the audience versus, oh my God, I got to crank out this flippin' post again. And it's kind of crappy, and people can tell that you didn't really have your heart in it and it wasn't high quality and so on.
Don't do it just to do it. Like, I feel like it happens all the time. People come to me and they're like, oh, I hate doing it. I'm like, because you're doing it in a way that sucks. Like, if you don't enjoy it and you don't feel like it's being fruitful to you, it sucks. But if everybody in your network saw your stuff and they actually wanted to see it, like that, wouldn't that be good for your business? And it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I was like, well, yeah, so let's make it in a way that you can enjoy that's actually going to do the thing that you already know works in your business. People try to pretend like the magical unicorn of social media, like, is going to just bring people to your lap. And it's like, no, you know that your business is by referral. Like, if you can get those people onto the platform where you're posting or putting out stuff, then of course you're going to get more referrals. So people forget that fact, and they're not going to fall from the sky. Start with who you have, feed them first, and then the rest, and people like them will come.
So how do we feed them?
How do we feed them? We give them the tips. We give them the FAQ questions. We tell them stories that they can relate to. That's how we feed them. And ideally, every platform has their own rules, and like Instagram is always changing things. But ideally, if you can give them the information that they want, and you thank them when they participate, they're going to keep engaging. They're going to keep seeing your stuff. There's a lot of nitty gritty detail I can say to this, but that's what you do. You give them the information they didn't know they needed.
Okay.
Make it easy.
I want to
please
go for a brief aside here, because one of the things that I harp on again and again and again on this show and in general is the importance of human conversations, one-on-one or small group conversations versus email, social media, SMS, name the whatever electronic platform. And I've said that those things are kind of like the fast food of human interaction. They're convenient, but they're not necessarily very nourishing. And I like to think of them as an enabler, not a replacement for the actual conversation. But I agree with everything you're saying. And I want to make it clear to people listening who are like, wait a second, Ruben, I thought you said we shouldn't do all this stuff. We should just talk to people. Like, no, I never said you shouldn't do all this stuff. You should totally do all this stuff. And the better you do it, the higher level you can start the real conversation.
There you go.
First of all, you're going to get more conversations with the right people, and then you can start at a deeper level instead of FAQ question number one. So it all fits together. And I think the beauty of it is it all is about you being authentically you in your online presence, in your conversations. It's not about any BS. Like if you check a box and outsource this to social media and your social media presence doesn't actually reflect you, then it's not going to help. And then when you talk to people, you have to start at square one, getting to know you.
Yes, 100%.
Am I following correctly?
You are brilliant, but you knew this already before we talked, but I love that it's clicking for you and the listeners here. I know you know this stuff. It all is a piece of the puzzle, right? Makes the sales conversations easier. It makes the relationship building so much easier. I have a slide that I use in a lot of my workshops, and it's like a picture of people golfing. And I ask people, like, what are people doing here? And they're like, okay, they're golfing. And then somebody always says networking. And I'm like, exactly. Like we know from like the beginning of time that a lot of times business relationships will start with a personal one. So why not throw on your website that you were, I had one lady that was a hockey coach or whatever. And one person who does art, or another person who does piano, another person that loves Broadway. Put at least one line of something interesting, because you never know what's going to come out. I had one lady that did some work with the Bulls, and being in Chicago, that is such a cool advantage, right? It makes the conversation way, way easier. But you're right. The social media is here to build that relationship much deeper. So those phone calls are easier. The relationship is like that. That's the magic. And put a little you in it. Absolutely. It's a very Shaily signature.
Put a little bit of you in it. I like that.
Yes.
Now,
always.
Something else I want to ask you about, because I've got strong feelings about this as well, and you don't have to agree with them.
Oh, I like it. Let's debate. I'm here for it.
Well, and we may be in violent agreement. Who knows? But I think another mistake people make is that they have opinions. And if you talk to them where it's not a sales cycle, they will share their opinions. But if you go to their website, there are no opinions about anything. It's all really bland. And it's like, well, I want to know, like, is your philosophy that X is good and Z is bad? Or if you're just like, everybody is kumbaya and everything is great. Like, I think people have an opportunity to say, hey, if you are, a poodle walker in Chicago, here's how you should do it. And you should not do it this way. And anyone who thinks this way is terrible. And
I love it.
Not necessarily terrible as a human being, but like, that's just the wrong way to walk poodles in Chicago with the weather and the wind and whatever, right? Like, and someone else who has the competing poodle business is like, no, it should be like this, not like that other crazy person. And you can kind of decide which one is the person who's right for me, versus if I go look for an accountant or something like that, right? I can Google, and there's 8 million accountants just in the greater Austin area, I imagine. And if I go to their websites, 99.9% of them are not going to tell me anything useful about whether they're the right person for me, because they're so scared that they might reveal that they're actually the wrong person for me that they won't say anything.
That's so big, right? There's this misconception of, oh, I want to help everybody. And and we hear, oh, you got to be more specific, got to niche down or whatever. But like, the more you can be specific about who you help and who you serve, the better you get those time wasters out of your way, and the better you get the right people coming to your door. But I do love what you said about being a little open to controversy, or being like open to naming the challenges in your industry. That's a real thing that I absolutely love hearing, is that I want to know what other people think of your thing. And if you name it for me before I research it, you're, again, the knowledge source that I can trust. It's giving me this information, whether I hire you or not. And that's really the amazing thing.
Well, it's very hard to be unforgettable if you're just like everybody else.
And that's a lot of people. A lot of people are the same, and they're boring.
And the thing that's, I think, tragic is they're actually not. Like, if you peel away enough layers of the onion, deep down inside, they're actually super interesting. And you can tell who's right for them and who isn't. But you got to wade through their boring website and their boring social media. And you probably have to have like 8 conversations with them before they even reveal what makes them really tick.
100%, right? You have no clue. It's like, well, if you wanted if you wanted any accountant, you can go hire any accountant, but you want someone that gets your problems and your needs. That's the big thing. You don't want just Joe Schmo accountant, unless you got a really good referral, fine. But you want someone that you can feel like gets you. And that's what you're doing with your content.
So what should people do? Let's take the example of accountants, and we're going to pick on poor accountants. It's so bad. They're really
I know
important
TikTok
folks.
really. Do you know about the TikTok thing this year?
I am like, I'm too something from MySpace. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know Big Brother.
Okay,
Like, I'm
there's a
just so
whole
uncool for this episode.
for anybody that is on TikTok. We're talking about actual accountants. Okay, you can Google the reference later. There's a whole song. It's a whole thing. But anyway, so accountants. Let's talk about the marketing for accountants.
Right. Like, because everyone perceives that accountants are like supposed to be boring and stodgy and uninteresting, which I don't think is necessarily
no one asks
true.
You when questions when you say you are an accountant. There's a whole song. Nobody asks you any questions when you're an accountant. They're like, okay, they don't care.
You're going to have to send me a link. We're going to put some kind of TikTok in the show notes here. And I'm going to learn about TikTok thanks to this.
Basically, TikTok thinks accountants are so boring. So if you say that you're an accountant, nobody asks you anything about what you do for a living. So you could lie and it doesn't matter.
Got it.
So
okay.
That's the whole epitome. But yes, they're boring. This is boring. People don't know. Yes. Nobody asks you questions. Yes. Keep going.
Let's take them as an example because everyone, accountant or not, can relate to this meme, this sort of stereotype that we're talking about. What should, Jane or John Doe accountant do to be unforgettable?
Okay, so this is great because I currently am having a little bit of an accountant situation. So like, it's great. I love my accountant, but I'm like, I might need some other resources, maybe a bookkeeper or whatever. So me being lost, right? I'm even just going to speak to myself. Like, I want to know, like, what do I actually need to have in place? What do I actually like? What is the first simplest thing I need? Like, I can make a platform, but like, there's so many buttons. I'm confused. Tell me about what buttons I need to worry about first. Tell me a little bit more about like how to navigate the PPP loan this year. Like, that was really, really complicated. People who did workshops and webinars on that was super helpful, right? These are things that me as a business owner are lost in. Things that a business owner needs to give to make an accountant do their job well. That happens with every single industry. It's like, what information do I need to give this person so that they can do their job well? Because there's plenty of companies that are probably like, their books are a big mess. And that's not what an accountant wants to clean up. So I want to know that. Like, that's step one. Like, what else do I need if I'm a small business and I need an accountant? What should I look for? These are all questions that I have that I would love that information if I went to your website.
I think that makes sense. And I think you could apply that for every accountant.
Yes.
And so let's put that as the foundation of the pyramid.
Sure.
And then as we move up the pyramid, I don't even know if that's the right metaphor.
I mean, you could. There's a lot of these marketing circles, pyramids. Yeah.
Something. Right. There's other things that like maybe this is a great accountant for you, but not for me, or
sure.
For like, how do we start differentiating and bringing that into play?
Well, this is where like we could all know like who we're serving. Like, what are the themes of our ideal clients? Like, I know all of my clients, they are connectors. They're good networkers. People know who they are. And that's amazing. And they already value social media. I know that about my people. They have that in common. And that's a huge thing. So like, there's things that like, if that you only work with, like, my companies are usually like under 50 people, if not 2 people, if not 10 people. I know that already. So what are the problems of those situations, right? You're not trying to work with every single person. So what are the specific kind of clients that you work with, and what are the specific problems they have? That's the biggest thing.
Got it. Okay. And that's also kind of ties into having the opinion and sort of being able to draw a line between the good guys and the bad guys. Like, if you're dealing with an accountant for Fortune 500 companies, they don't understand you at all because of X, Y, and Z. Or even if you have a mid-sized company with 500 people, they're totally wrong for your 3-person company because blah, 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 blah.
Right? You know a little bit more about them. And this is where like the speech I was asked to do Monday, they're like, tell us about customer avatars and how to make buyer personas. And I'm like, this is where like a marketer got into your head for small business. I'm like, yes, in real, like big old, like straight up, like traditional marketing, like this stuff is all important, but that is going to confuse the heck out of a business owner because they're like, oh, I don't know, what is all this stuff? They know who they're selling to. They know it better than any marketer could ever map out for them. They know what they're like. They know their day-to-day challenges. They know if they're a parent. They know if they're older, they're younger, right? They know this stuff, right? So they can literally imagine probably 15 people immediately that they want to talk to that have something in common. They have to talk to them first. They know them. I don't need them to do a worksheet to figure this out. I leverage what the business owner already knows to get them more out of what they already know works for their business. That is my favorite thing.
Okay. So basically pull the information out of their head, the stuff they already have, already know that which you need, and so on. They
do. And they have the thing is they have all of this. They just don't know how to focus it when it comes to doing their own marketing. They have no idea because they have so many choices and it's overwhelming.
Right.
That's why I guide them. That's the Sherpa, right? You guide them to where they need to go.
That's right. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And one thing I say is that actually a lot of these folks are amazing at sales and marketing. They've just absorbed the wrong myths about it. So they think that sales and marketing is something different,
Ooh.
and they think they hate it, and they think they have to suck at it. And they're
Yeah.
actually wonderful because they care a lot about their customers and their problems. And that's really what you need.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Yes. Very interesting, but yes, 100%. Oh, I love I love the bonding and the hearts to hearts about marketing and all the craziness that you and I both see on a regular basis. It's amazing.
Well, and I think it's funny because when I hear you talk, it sounds very similar to me. We approach it from different angles, but it's sort of the same philosophy of,
Yeah.
these people are awesome. We just need to share a little bit more of that awesomeness with the world so the world can see it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Totally.
So Shaily, if people do listen to this and say, I want to talk to Shaily, where can they find you? Where can they find out more?
You can find me at yoursocialmediasherpa.com. There's all sorts of goodies on there. I make it very easy to get support from me, whether that be like full-on trainings on my YouTube channel, whether it's on LinkedIn, how to get more referrals, how to even get it, like how to use LinkedIn to get a job. Even I have full trainings on YouTube. They're available to anybody. You can watch them at any time. I also have some hacks that are available if you want to learn how to write better LinkedIn posts, or what kind of questions you need to answer a little bit deeper of what we talked about here. They're all available. I think everything's like under $100. It's like very cute. This is for B2B, especially, like you need to be on LinkedIn, very likely. A lot of times, like you and I said, their profiles are so boring. So I created a resource. You can download it. It'll pop up right when you go to my website, where you can get all of my favorite LinkedIn profiles as an instant download, no cost, and you can get some really easy social media tips from me. There's some really good profile pictures and banners, and they're all different flavors. You will leave with so many ideas that you can implement tomorrow to make sure that when people look you up before an event, they see you as like brilliant, because I'm sure, like you and I said, they're way cooler than their profile lets on.
That's awesome. And I'm just going to say, grab that, go into Mimrin. You can even do this for free in Mimrin, go through the positioning wizard, and it helps you generate LinkedIn profile and about me page and so on.
Even better.
So I think these things go together like,
yes.
What do you want to say? Like ginger beer and mezcal, or?
Yes. We got, ginger beer. That's what I'm drinking. Yes, that was good. So it sounds like if you're listening to this right now, you cannot leave this interview without improving your LinkedIn profile. You've got a resource from the CRM and you've got a resource from me. If you put them both together, you will have no problems making this profile phenomenal. It's going to be great. Is that right?
That's right. And then ask yourself why your website isn't also phenomenal.
Oh, all of this stuff overlaps too. It's like, what interesting things will you be inspired to share? It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
And the thing I love about it is, instead of trying to puff yourself up and make it sound like you're somebody that you're not, kind of like presenting a facade, it's really just about taking away the facade and revealing a little bit more of you.
Yeah, because that's what it is, right? Like if you only have, like I have an intern right now, and like she didn't have a LinkedIn profile. If I wanted to Google search her, luckily for her, she has a YouTube channel. I could get to know her great. But for so many young students, they have nothing online. So all they have is an interview. You're literally making it easy for people to understand that you're awesome without you having to be there to facilitate that. That's the incredible thing. Whether you're a high school student, a college student, a business owner, all of that stuff. I have to say this because I do like LinkedIn workshops for young students, because they don't talk about themselves and how special they are. But you are literally allowed to stack the deck with every bit of information that makes you shine, no matter what your situation is. So do it.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Amen to that.
Cheers. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers.
I appreciate it. Be unforgettable.
You
finished your glass. I guess
finished
it was a good
my
interview.
glass. This is good.
Thanks for listening. Did something in this episode or a past episode help you out? I'd love to hear about it. Send comments, questions, or ideas for future episodes to hello@salesfornerds.io. And of course, iTunes reviews are super helpful for getting the word out. So if you've got a few moments to put one of those up, I'd really appreciate it. If you got a friend who'd benefit from one of these episodes, send a link. If you got a friend who wouldn't benefit from one of the episodes, but you just haven't talked to in a while, this is a great excuse to pick up the phone and give them a call. Of course, if you're looking for a whole new take on CRM for solo consultants, along with proposal templates, lead magnet ideas, free positioning tools, and more, check it out at mimiran.com. That's MIMIRAN.com. Again,